What if the spark of creativity is born, not in clarity, but in chaos? What if every stroke of genius, every flash of inspiration, comes from the delicate balance between madness and meaning, between the known and the unknowable? Creativity is not merely the act of making something new. It is the most profound dialogue between humanity and existence itself. It is the way we grasp at the intangible, attempt to explain the unexplainable, and connect with the world beyond what we see. But have you ever wondered what truly drives us to create? What compels us to take the ordinary and make it extraordinary? At its heart, creativity is an eternal question. It is not something to be owned or mastered. It is an endless journey, a dance between chaos and order, sanity and madness, certainty and doubt. To create is to participate in something larger than ourselves, to glimpse the infinite through the finite. Creativity requires courage. It asks us to step into the unknown, to embrace uncertainty, to risk failure. But in doing so, it offers us the most valuable gift of all, the opportunity to grow. Nietzsche once said, "One must still have chaos within oneself to give birth to a dancing star." Chaos, he reminds us, is not the enemy. It is the raw material of creation. Think about it. How often do we shy away from chaos, from the discomfort of not knowing? Creativity demands that we lean into that discomfort. It asks us to trust the process, to believe that something beautiful can emerge from the messiness of life. And isn't that what life itself is? A beautiful, imperfect creation. It asks us to trust the process, to believe that something beautiful can emerge from the messiness of life. And isn't that what life itself is? A beautiful, imperfect creation? Albert Einstein, a mind steeped in both creativity and logic, once reflected, "Creativity is seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what no one else has thought." And yet this act of reimagining often comes at a cost. It isolates the creator, setting them apart from those who are content with the status quo. Franz Kafka once wrote, "Isolation is a way to know ourselves." Indeed, to create is to walk a lonely path, to wrestle with ideas and emotions that others may not understand. But it is through this solitude that we find clarity, and through clarity, connection. This insight reminds us that creativity is not about inventing something from nothing. It is about seeing the familiar with fresh eyes, about reimagining the world in ways that inspire and challenge. Consider Vincent van Gogh. His brushstrokes seem wild, chaotic, even desperate. But within this chaos lies something profound, a longing to capture the invisible essence of life. In a letter to his brother Theo, he wrote, "What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything?" His creativity wasn't merely an escape from his inner torment, it was a way to make sense of it. And perhaps this is what creativity truly is. A bridge between the seen and the unseen. A way to give shape to emotions too vast for words. Philosophy has long grappled with the nature of creativity. Immanuel Kant believed creativity arose from the interplay of reason and imagination. For Kant, the artist was someone who could transcend the limits of reason to touch the sublime, the indescribable. Franz Kafka, on the other hand, saw creativity as an act of resistance. His surreal stories, like The Metamorphosis, reflect a world that is oppressive, absurd, and indifferent. Kafka once said, "A book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us." His creativity was not a gift, it was a necessity. Psychologists have sought to unravel the mystery of creativity. They've studied the brain, searching for patterns, anomalies, and sparks. One finding stands out. Creativity often emerges from what's called divergent thinking, the ability to see multiple possibilities where others see only one. Nikola Tesla, the visionary inventor, embodied this kind of thinking. Tesla could visualize entire machines in his mind before building them. He once said, "The mind is sharper and keener in seclusion and uninterrupted solitude. Originality thrives in seclusion, free of outside influences." Tesla's creativity came from his ability to retreat into his imagination, to explore ideas others deemed impossible. But creativity isn't always a blessing. Many creative minds have walked the fine line between brilliance and madness. Frida Kahlo, for instance, turned her physical and emotional pain into hauntingly beautiful art. She wrote, "I paint flowers so they will not die." For Kahlo, creativity was an act of defiance, a way to reclaim her identity and transform suffering into beauty. Creativity is universal, but its expression varies across cultures and time. In the Renaissance, creativity was seen as divine inspiration. Michelangelo described his sculptures as already existing within the marble, waiting to be freed. Creativity is a paradox. It is both a gift and a burden. Van Gogh created some of the most beloved paintings in history, yet he died in obscurity, tormented by his mind. Similarly, Virginia Woolf and Sylvia Plath channeled their inner struggles into writing that continues to resonate, but at great personal cost. And yet, creativity is also redemptive. Creativity reminds us that even in the face of chaos, beauty can emerge. So what is creativity? Is it madness, genius, a spark of the divine? The truth is, creativity is all of these things. It is the chaos of Van Gogh's brushstrokes, the precision of Einstein's equations, the defiance of Frida Kahlo's self-portraits, and the quiet rebellion of Kafka's words. But most of all, creativity is human. It is the thread that connects us across time, space, and culture, and it lives within each of us, waiting to be awakened. Perhaps then, the greatest act of creativity is not creating something new, but daring to see the world differently. Creativity is not neutral. It carries with it a profound responsibility. The power to shape minds, inspire movements, and alter the course of history is not something to be taken lightly. Albert Einstein's theories revolutionized our understanding of the universe, but they also paved the way for technologies that could destroy it. He once said, "The unleashed power of the atom has changed everything except our way of thinking." This duality, the capacity for creation and destruction, reminds us that creativity must be guided by wisdom. In the hands of the wise, creativity heals, uplifts, and unites. In the hands of the reckless, it can divide, manipulate, or harm. This is why the act of creation is not just a skill. It is a moral and spiritual practice. To create responsibly is to ask, does this serve the greater good? Does this reflect the truth of my being? There is something sacred about the creative act. It is a moment when the mundane meets the divine, when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. In these moments, time seems to dissolve. The artist loses themselves in the work. The scientist forgets the clock. The writer enters a world of their own making. Rumi described this state beautifully. When you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. Creativity is not just about the final product, it is about the journey, the transformation that takes place within the creator. It is in this journey that we discover who we are and who we can become. Franz Kafka, who often felt alienated from the world, wrote, "Writing is utter solitude, the descent into the cold abyss of oneself." Yet, in this descent, Kafka found something profound, an ability to articulate the unspeakable, to make the invisible visible. His solitude became a source of connection for those who felt similarly lost. So why do we create? Perhaps it is because deep down we know that life is not measured by what we take, but by what we give. Creativity is our gift to the world, a way of saying, I was here, I made something, I mattered. And in this act of creation, we find something extraordinary, ourselves. For to create is not just to make something new, it is to discover who we are, to embrace the infinite within us, and to share it with the world. Creativity is not the act of becoming extraordinary, it is the act of realizing that you already are.